The U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry has arrived in Vienna to join the faltering talks on Iran's nuclear program. Iran and six world powers have to reach a deal before Monday's deadline. The two main sticking points are the scale of Iran's uranium enrichment and the timetable for lifting Western sanctions against the country. As our diplomatic editor James Bays reports, there are increasing concerns that a deal won't be done.
John Kerry, the US Secretary of State, arriving in Vienna as the clock ticks towards the deadline for a nuclear deal on Monday. Iran and international negotiators, the so-called P5+1, the five permanent members of the UN Security Council, as well as Germany, are trying to build on an interim deal a year ago. Secretary Kerry says a groundbreaking agreement is still possible.
We are not discussing extension. We are negotiating to try to get an agreement. It's that simple. And look, you know, if you get to the final hour and you're in need of having to look at alternatives or something, we'll look at them. I'm not telling you we're not going to look at something, but we're not looking at them, not now.
The negotiators are closer to a deal than ever before, but the most difficult issues have been left to the end. Complicating things, reports from Tehran suggesting the Iranian side will not make further concessions on the Iraq heavy water plant used to produce plutonium, and fresh comments from the international monitoring organization, the IAEA, that Iran has not met a deadline to provide information it's requested, particularly about what goes on at the Parchin military complex, where some claim there's a secret nuclear facility.
I call upon Iran to increase its cooperation with the agency and provide timely access to all relevant information, documentation, sites, material and personnel.
Here at the United Nations, Secretary General Ban Ki-moon has urged all of those involved in the talks to show flexibility, wisdom and determination. There are only three possible outcomes: a breakdown, a historic agreement, or yet another extension of the process. The next few days will be crucial. James Bays, Al Jazeera at the United Nations.
Joining us now from San Francisco is Middle East analyst Arash Aramesh. He specializes in Iran. Welcome to Al Jazeera once again. So what do you think is the likelihood that the P5+1 will be able to reach a deal with Iran by November 24th, just days away?
It seems unlikely that a complete and an all-inclusive deal with Iran, one that would encompass all the big issues that Iran and the P5+1 have faced in the past few years, will be reached by Monday. But what seems more likely is that, especially what the U.S. has been trying to achieve, and John Kerry is now in Vienna trying to get this done, is to agree on a framework, on an accord, on a framework that would include the major issues and the major agreements and the major points of contention in it, so later the two sides can come back and agree to that accord. But I don't think it's impossible that on Monday we see a major deal announced, but I think it's highly unlikely.
How desperate do you think both sides, the various parties, are to work out some kind of deal?
The administration of President Rouhani is desperate to get a deal. So is the administration of President Barack Obama. And I tell you why. In Iran, Rouhani has gambled a lot of his reputation, his administration's well-being on the success of these nuclear talks. He wants to make sure these talks get somewhere, and he can get some sanctions relief. And with sanctions relief, he can actually aid the ailing Iranian economy that came to a screeching halt just a couple of years ago because just last year, as a matter of fact, because of U.S. and international sanctions. So a failure in these talks would embolden the hardliners in Iran, led by Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei and some elements of the Islamic Revolutionary Guards forces. It would only allow them to say, hey, look, our point of view has been vindicated. You can never trust the West. On the other hand, here in the U.S., we just had historic midterm elections. The Republican majority in the House got even bigger. We haven't seen something like this in 56, 57 years. The Republicans also took over the Senate. Now they have the leadership of the Senate, which means that in case they want to pass further sanctions against Iran, and if President Obama were to veto it, they have enough Republican and Democratic votes to override that veto. Let's not forget that Iran and getting tough on Iran is one of those issues that unites liberal Democrats and conservative Republicans in this country. So by failure, both sides, the administration of President Obama and Hassan Rouhani will feel challenged, and they will feel the pinch domestically and internationally. What might happen really quickly is that the U.S., in case these talks fail, will probably have to increase sanctions, increase pressure on Iran, and it's not going to be a very pretty picture for the Iranian economy.
Right, we'll be watching to see what happens on Monday. Arash Aramesh, thanks for speaking to us.